Up next on Keystone Stories, Black History Keepers. In cities and towns across Pennsylvania, including right here in Bellefonte, Black people have helped to enrich and build communities. That history is often forgotten or not well known. One person who made it her mission to tell these stories was the late Reverend Dr. Donna King, an activist, educator, and pastor of the St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal, or AME Church. African Americans have played an integral role in Bellefonte's history. When she was alive, Dr. King, who some called Mama King, worked to unearth and share this history with the community. Amen. She invited people to worship at the church and shared the important role that the church and its members played in Bellefonte.
But it helps when you're sitting in the site for the Underground Railroad. Because I don't know about you, but I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom.
Dr. King was the pastor of the St. Paul AME Church and taught at Penn State. St. Paul AME Church was organized in the 1800s and is believed by some to have been a stop on the Underground Railroad. Land for the church was provided by a Quaker named William Thomas.
Because God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. And that's the only way you're going to let your soul live.
When I walked into the building, I just felt like I was walking back into the past and crossing the threshold of many who have came across that threshold before in the past.
St. Paul is a church on the hill, and it's just got the stained glass that you see, and it looks like a historic church. An angelic church. I just look around and I see the old saints that was here, that worked here, and that feels good to me.
The church was part of the political, the economic, the social atmosphere, particularly for African Americans. This is our sanctuary. If it wasn't for the church, we had no place to go to socialize, to make plans about our livelihoods and our life. Church was very important.
It's important for people here and now to learn about this because, quite frankly, a lot of white folks, who are the majority around here, and a lot of other folks too, just don't know that history.
A town built up by the iron industry, some residents of Bellefonte had anti-slavery sentiment. Several homes and buildings in the area are believed to have been stops on the Underground Railroad. According to historian Charles Blockson, while some enslaved people passed through Bellefonte on their way further north to freedom, others settled in the area. In 1885, members of St. Paul AME petitioned the local school board to provide more equitable, educational opportunities for Bellefonte's Black students.
The trustees of this church did that. This church is rooted in so much social justice.
Another way that Donna King shared the story of the church and Black history in Bellefonte was by leading historical walking tours in the town.
It's one thing to talk, but it's another thing to walk the walk. And to become a historian and learn all of the history of Bellefonte. And that tells you there's a legacy of social justice that goes along with Penn State and Bellefonte and its founding that we really need to continue to have these tours so not only do faculty and staff learn about it, but we need to teach it to our young people and also our students. And I bring my students on the same tour that you're going to do now. So let's light the lantern. Whenever you have a lantern lit, that means that we're coming near a safe house or a place of freedom and what I call a freedom mindset or an abolitionist mindset.
One stop on Donna King's tours was the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. The memorial holds the names of more than 3,000 Centre County veterans from various wars, including the Civil War. One section shows the names of members of the United States Colored Troops.
And if you look at some of these names, some of these men were members of the St. Paul AME Church. So we're trying to keep a legacy alive at St. Paul.
A few homes and buildings in Bellefonte, including what was known as the Lynn House, now the home of the Bellefonte Art Museum, are believed to have been stops on the Underground Railroad. Because of the secret nature of the endeavor, documentation to validate anecdotal stories are sometimes hard to find.
So when we say we don't belong here, people of color, you shouldn't feel that way. Learn the history. History is the cure. If we would teach our students how people came together to right a wrong like slavery in the Underground Railroad, maybe they could see what justice really is. You have to fight for freedom, but at the same time, you don't fight alone. We're actually standing in the place where Grandfather Mills had a barbershop.
One of the people Pastor King highlighted on our tours was William H. Mills, a leader of the St. Paul AME Church and the grandfather of members of the famous musical group, the Mills Brothers. He owned a barbershop in Bellefonte for 60 years. It is reported that famed abolitionist, author, and orator Frederick Douglass visited the barbershop while in town to give a speech.
When I did the tour in Bellefonte that Mama King led, it gave me a chance to see how what I've learned is connected to what is there.
Harriet Gaston has done extensive research on local Black history, particularly in Blair County.
There are stories on almost every town and or county in what we would call Central PA about their history of and reaction and relationships to things like the Underground Railroad, the 1850 Fugitive Slave Law, the United States Colored Troops, Black cemeteries, businesses, Black-owned businesses. That existed in almost every town that I've done my research on.
Reverend Dr. Donna King was familiar with the written material about the Underground Railroad, about Black history in Bellefonte. But she knew so much more because there was a legacy of people passing stories down within that community, within St. Paul's AME, within the Black community in Bellefonte and Centre County. Dr. King could talk about the Underground Railroad or Black activism, and she could draw direct connections to what is happening in social justice in 2016, 2017, 2018.
A lot of it came through faith-based initiatives.
And that is powerful. There aren't many people who are like that. And people who are like that and still choose to educate people are even more rare.
The light of freedom has come. We made it. Good job, people.
The last stop on our tours was St. Paul AME, the historic church on the hill.
It's important to people to see things, to see actual presence, and to see and feel the history right around them, which is right here, built into this building. It's a beautiful place, and it's a symbol of that rich, rich history, very significant history of struggle and triumph and perseverance and endurance against many odds.
The history needs to be preserved. The truth needs to be preserved.
Making sure that we're incorporating a complete history of Centre County, of Bellefonte, ensures that we have a complete understanding of who we are and where we have been, and it gives us the information that we need to ensure that we have an equitable future.
This is our country, and so we have to make sure that not just African, Black Americans, but all Americans know what makes up America. And we are rich and steeped in that tradition.
There is so much history left to be uncovered, so many stories to be told and lessons to be learned. from the people who called this area home long ago. In Bellefonte and elsewhere in central Pennsylvania, like Donna King, community members and scholars continue to research and find ways to share the history of the important role that Blacks played in local communities. A history that is too important to be lost. Watch full episodes of Keystone Stories now on the PBS Video app.